The night air was brisk, typical for late October. No snow yet, thank goodness, I thought to myself as I quickly walked to get to my cousin's house. The time was 1:17 Saturday morning, and I knew better than this. I really did, I said to myself out loud. Walking the streets alone at this hour? Not exactly the smartest thing to do. But this is what happens when you go to a party with friends given by people you don't know from Adam. The friends I went to the party with were completely obliterated. Trouble was breaking out all over the place, so I crept out the back door and began walking. I called my cousin, we will call him Peter, and I explained the situation to him. I told him I would be there in 45 minutes or so. I did not, however, tell him that I was walking alone. I just told him that I would be there in a little bit. He said, cool, as he was just now starting a very scary movie entitled Annabelle, and he couldn't wait to see it. I had a very long trek, as the party was near Mercy Hospital in Urbana, Ohio, and my cousin lives off Main Street on Broadway out toward Route 68 going toward Springfield. It's now 1:30 a.m., and I'm sure I have a good 35 or so minutes of walking left. Heading down Kenton Street was the best option for me, as I did not wish to walk down a main drag such as Main Street at this hour no more than I had to. Trying to not draw attention to myself was the idea. Quickly approaching Kenton Street and thinking out loud of all the creepy tales I've heard over the years concerning Kenton Street, but at the same time trying desperately to erase it all from my memory banks. Unfortunately, it wasn't working very well. Now crossing Water Street and feeling a bit panicky because of my thoughts getting away from me, I felt myself start to pick up momentum, nearly running. And in my panicked state, my bootlaces on my left foot had come undone, so I stopped to tie them. When I stopped, I could hear footsteps coming up fast behind me, so without thinking, I turned quickly facing back toward Water Street and saw absolutely nothing. That was weird, I thought. Was I hearing things? There was nothing or no one anywhere in sight, and the footsteps had ceased, so I just stood there for a moment or two, frozen, as I know for certain what I heard behind me. It crossed my mind to call my cousin and ask him to come get me, but then I realized cousin-in-law Mary Jane, Peter's wife, had started working third shift just a little over a month ago, and his car is down, so there was no way he could come after me. I slowly turned, looking down Kenton Street toward Reynolds Street, not really knowing what to do at this point, as I continued to just stand frozen in place. My mind began to wander just for a moment, as you could hear the wind howling and the moon. The moon was extremely bright that night, so bright I could actually see the black cat that crossed in front of me maybe 30 feet away. And the air, oh my gosh, the air was ripping through me like a katana. I started back up slowly, nearly tiptoeing, so I could listen for footsteps other than my own. At this rate, I thought, the sun will be coming up by the time I reach Peter's. I stopped for just a few seconds, catching my breath and preparing for my attempt at power walking the remainder of the way, or at least for as long as I could bear it. Deep breaths and sighs as I make my way in the dark as fast as my legs and feet would carry me, not wanting to look back and praying to not hear the footsteps again. And, of course, the stories came flooding back and chills ran down my spine. What propelled me to move even faster was the fact that I had calculated on having maybe 30 minutes of walking left. I could actually see that light in my mind at this point. That beautiful light at the end of the tunnel, my cousin's house. Safety, I thought. Safety. As I was lost in thought, I heard what sounded like scuffling to my right. I glanced over my shoulder to see nothing, and at the same time ended up tripping over my own feet and the sidewalk, nearly falling flat on my face. Through catching my fall, I started running as fast as I could for what seemed to be a very long stretch, but in reality was only maybe 5 minutes. At this point, I had to slow down, way down. Still walking, but now somewhat out of breath. It weighed heavy on my mind that if I really needed to run at this point, I would not be able to do that. And at that very moment, the footsteps behind me started back up. And although Powell Avenue was now in my view, that was some relief because I was thinking all would be good if I could just get away from Kenton Street. The only thing I was certain of right now is that my heart was pounding out of my chest, so I decided to stop dead in my tracks and turn around because after all, what did I have to lose, right? I couldn't run any further, and I could hear the steps as if they were literally inches away from me. When I stopped, of course, once again, the footsteps stopped. I turned around to see nothing there, absolutely nothing. And I got the eeriest, the creepiest feeling, almost as though I was taken back in time. I felt as though I couldn't move. I was literally paralyzed. I just stood there feeling helpless and out of body. Once I snapped out of my trance, I turned and began walking again, being absolutely terrified out of my mind and feeling trapped and alone. It crossed my mind to run to the nearest door and knock for help, but being that it was now going on 2 a.m., I totally decided against it, as they would very possibly believe I was insane and call the police on me. I was actually beginning to wonder that myself, if I was losing it. Was I hearing things? My mind must be playing tricks on me. I didn't know what to think at this point. I know it felt surreal, almost like I was in the Twilight Zone. Gosh, is this really happening? What in the hell am I witnessing here? God help me. Please watch over me, Lord, as I make my way to my cousin's in the dark at 2 a.m. I was quickly approaching Powell Avenue, and it couldn't have happened sooner. I knew that once I reached Powell, I was pretty much home free, or at least I thought. I power walked it to Powell with absolutely no problems, no footsteps, no scuffling, no strange feelings, nothing out of the ordinary. Fantastic. So I was feeling really good at that point, figuring I had roughly 10 minutes of walking left to do. Just as I was making my way past Windsor Avenue, my cell vibrates, and it's my cousin, wanting to know what the heck has taken me so long, and at this point I decided to just let him in on the fact that I had walked from Out Mercy Hospital way, and of course he slightly scolded me of the dangers, but was happy to hear that I was less than 10 minutes from his house. I assured him that all was well and that I would be there in a few. I did, however, explain to him that I had been experiencing some odd occurrences and that I would explain once I got there. Having said that, he offered to remain on the phone with me until I arrived, but I told him I could move faster if I wasn't on the phone, so we disconnected the call and I continued on my way. Now, turning onto Main Street, by the way, is very well lit, with moderate traffic. Yes, even at this time in the morning. It is the weekend. So I put my hoodie up to disguise my gender and identity best I could. Walking briskly and crossing over Main to get to Broadway, I was still quite a bit creeped out of what I went through on Kenton Street and trying to figure out if, once again, I imagined it all or if it really happened. I do realize how the mind can sometimes play cruel and relentless tricks on you. Now approaching Broadway, I knew I had to make it to nearly the end of the street, and this street was pitch black. Peter told me he was leaving the porch light on for me, thank God. Unfortunately, that wasn't helping me at the moment because, as I stated earlier, this street is totally dark and his house was still out of my view. But I kept thinking just 2 to 3 more minutes. I continued to repeat over and over to make myself feel better. And just then I heard it. Huh? Are you serious? Footsteps behind me again? This isn't Kenton Street, it's Broadway. So what the heck? These footsteps were hurried, running. Oh my God, I panicked and I began to run, fast and furiously, crossing over to the other side of Broadway because the house was on the left side. I ran, blocking out whatever sounds trailed behind me. Oh my God. Finally I reached Peter's house. I practically fell up the steps leading to the front door. I rang the bell, my heart pounding so loud that's all I could hear. I was feeling very faint. Everything was spinning, and my cousin opened the door, and all I remember is falling through the doorway onto the floor. Coming to, I could hear my cousin what sounded like way off in the distance, asking if I was all right and what in the heck is going on? What happened? Attempting to get my thoughts straight and focus, I tried to respond and explain the best I could. But at the same time, I was thinking how much this entire situation had simply been all in my mind. It had to have been in my mind, right? It made no logical sense, not at all. At this time, I sat up and told Peter that I believe I just simply spooked myself. What with walking alone at that time in the morning, all the horror stories we have heard since we were kids about Kenton Street, and just the combination of everything is what caused me to freak out and hear things. There was nothing following me. There were a gazillion explanations for the sounds I heard. After all, I was outside. There were animals around, cars. It could have been anything. And just at that moment, I glanced beyond where my cousin was sitting to the picture window approximately 15 feet behind him to see a black figure at the window. And once again, that feeling came over me. I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. I just sat there, fixated on that thing at the window. A black figure that at the same time appeared to be slightly transparent. Not human. Transparent and black. Something about it just wasn't human. Was it outlined in black? I couldn't quite make it out. It was rather hazy and very possibly 7, maybe 8 feet tall? No. This couldn't be. This just could not be. I shut my eyes, knowing when I opened them up again, the figure would be gone. So 5 or 6 seconds passed by, and I began opening my eyes slowly, very slowly, just to find that the figure was now standing inside the house, directly behind my cousin.